Om Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyan Nijantargatam Pashyannatmani Mayaya Bahirvodbhutai Yatha Nidraya Yasakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye Svatmanamevadvayam Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namahidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Bijasyantarivangkuro Jagadidam Prang Nirvikalpam Punaha Maya Kalpita Deshakala Kalana Vaichitra Chitri Krutam Maya Viva Vijrumbhayatyapi Maha Yogi Vayasvechaya Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namahidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namahidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. Verse 16. Vapustushadibih koshaihi Yuktam yuktyaavaghatataha Atmanam mantaram shuddha Atmanam mantaram shuddham Vivichya tandulam yatha. So, we have completed a portion of adhyasa, projection. This is there even in day-to-day life also. When any incident happens, and people don't know what is the reality about it, then there are so many stories going on. In fact, right now going on. Some, in India, one actor committed suicide, and the reality is not known to anyone, and so you find every day new projection. So this is how it is. Ignorance, something should be there, definitely. Something should be there. Ignorance means generally it is absence. Absence means non-existence. So from non-existence, how can all these things can create? It cannot be. But definitely something has happened. But people are ignorant of it. Like, suppose rope is not there at all. And ignorance of rope, from there several things can be created. It is not possible. A snake can be created, a cable can be created, or a streak of water is created out of nothing. Just absence. Just ignorance. No, not possible. Ignorance of rope. So something should be there. Rope is there, not known. There is an object we know, but there is a rope we don't know. In such a situation only, it can lead to this kind of a thing. So here also, the self is there, but the ignorance of the self, of course, also is there. And from there, whole this projection. Projection, I have told you, of twofold. One is prapancha dhyasa. That's, world is superimposed. Elements, elementals are also superimposed upon the self. And also, the shariras also are superimposed. And we are concerned about this sharira dhyasa, which is actually a cause of a suffering. Any sharira. Once a person equates oneself with any body or the attributes of the body, then definitely it is going to lead some kind of a suffering. And that is emotional suffering we are talking about. Physical suffering, of course, cannot be avoided. But physical suffering leads to emotional suffering. That is where we can avoid, and that is what even Bhagavan told in the second chapter, Ashochanam Vashochasam. That is called sorrow. Sorrow means any kind of a suffering, emotional suffering, born of this projection. And I have also told you this Ajnanam, ignorance, does a twofold mischiefs. One is it projects, and not only it projects, it doesn't show you it as a projection. It shows you as a reality. That's a thing. So, while rope ignorance can create a snake projection, but also reality to the snake, which leads to the fear and suffering. So that is how the whole thing is. Same way here also. And therefore, and in Ishvara's creation, ultimately to remove this ignorance and ignorance-born projection, there is only one solution, and that is gain knowledge. To gain knowledge, one has to study the scriptures, etc. So this is whole thing he established from verse number 2 to verse number 15. And so the diagnosis part is over. The suffering, human being suffering. So that diagnosis is over. And now we'll have to talk about the medicine. So from verse number 16 to verse number 31 rather, talks about Mananam, Shravanam and Mananam, and then from 32 onwards, he talks about Nididhyasanam, because ultimately Jnanam has these threefold things: Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam. And what is Atma Jnanam? Well, it is a very systematic and consistent study of the scriptures, Vedantic scriptures, of course, and for a length of time. And that length could be anything, from one birth to several births. One has to continue the study. And of course, with the help of a traditional teacher. And because this, Shastra does not unlock themselves. And therefore, definitely a teacher is required who unlocks the things and gives you the proper meaning of that. So, and the question now is to know Atma, why Shastra is required. In Rishikesh, this is very popular. Atma is here. Then why should you look outside? Puja Swamiji also used to tell like this. Why should you look outside? Well, but this is how the things are. We are finding even in our other examples also. Like to see everybody's face, my eyes are enough. But to know my face, my eyes are not enough. My eyes cannot see my own face. And therefore, to see my own face, I have to look out. Generally, otherwise to see my face, I should, make introvert this eyeballs, etc. But that doesn't work that way. To see basically one's own face, one has to look as though outside. So same way of course, to gain the knowledge of Atma, one has to definitely look into the Shastra and Guru. That is the mirror. That is the mirror where I can look upon. So any amount of meditation, sitting in meditation, etc. also will not lead to know your own face. Just open the eyes, come out of the meditation and see in the mirror. Then you can definitely see your own face. So simplest method is approach the mirror to know the face. Same way here also, Guru Shastra, Upadesha, etc. is also mirror. And that reveals the reality of myself. And Shankaracharya ji says here, so you gain Atma Jnanam, which is in the it is in the threefold way. First is the Shravanam, and the second is Mananam, and third is Nididhyasanam. And our word Upanishad also reveals this thing also. Upanishad, Upa means near as such. Near means approaching the teacher. And you approach the teacher for the sake of listening the scriptures. So Upa indicates Shravanam. Ni indicates Nishchaya, means conviction. And conviction means doubtless knowledge or doubt-free knowledge. So that indicates Mananam. So Upa indicates Shravanam, Ni indicates Mananam. And by then, one can gain this knowledge by Shravanam and Mananam. So verse 16 to 31, it talks about this thing, Shravanam and Mananam. And verse 32 onwards, Shankaracharya ji talks about Nididhyasanam also. Because this knowledge will give the fruit, that is freedom. I should feel that I am limitless, I am free, I don't lack anything, etc. Then definitely Nididhyasanam is required. Because we have a certain habitual reactions. And that's how people criticize us also. If we are listening for a several number of years, and we are clear also, and sometimes we may conduct, suppose I am talking about myself, suppose I may conduct a study group and I can talk about Mahavakya and everything, clearly explain everything. And moment I get up and then I react on somebody in my family member, like, anger I show or some kind of a jealousy or something, sense of competition. So that shows clarity of knowledge is there through Shravanam and Mananam. I am free that, I am Brahman. I'm free from the doubt that I am Brahman. But ultimately, that this whole habitual reactions are still there. So one has to come out of it. And habitual error includes even this body-mind sense complex is taken as I, because the ignorance is beginningless, and therefore, and so the projections also are beginningless. The superimposition of the body, etc., taken as I also is beginningless. And so the habit has been very, very firm now. So it takes time to come out of this habit. And therefore, Nididhyasanam is a very important criteria. And so from verse 32 onwards, Shankaracharya ji also talks about Nididhyasanam. There are two types of Nididhyasanam, etc., also has been talked about. Okay, now let's enter into this verse here itself. Now, so when we study this, what kind of a knowledge Shastra gives? You said Shastra is a mirror, etc., to do oneself. Okay, how does Shastra reveal this I? So Shastra says when you say I, the two factors are there in the I. It looks I means one, only one, but there are two factors. One is a very evident factor and the second is a non-evident factor. One is a recognizable factor, other is a non-recognizable factor, etc. So there are two factors involved. So before that, and going in further, I will give you an example of like a moving fan. When you see a moving fan, you find it is a one entity alone. But in moving fan, there are two entities, you know very well. One is a very recognizable factor, is the fan itself. And the second is a non-recognizable factor, which is electricity. And therefore, otherwise, how can a fan move? So, two factors are there, but both are so intimate that they appear as a one. Even though both are distinct. Fan is not electricity, electricity is not fan. Properties of the electricity are entirely different, properties of the fan are entirely different. But since they are very intimate, so instead of two, they appear as a one. And same way here also in I also there are, two factors. And but Swamiji, how can you say in moving fan there are two factors? If one of them is absent, there you won't get a breeze. I mean, electricity is not there, then you won't get a breeze. And electricity is there, but fan is not there. So then also you won't get a breeze. And therefore that shows there are two entities. So this is a logic we apply. This is a reasoning we apply behind it. Same way the I includes also two things. One is a very recognizable factor, visible factor, body, etc., which we generally in the Vedanta we call as an Atma, because which is not I actually. And the second is a non-recognizable factor, which is Atma or a consciousness. These two things are there. And so in the Shravanam, very first step is to understand cognitively these two factors. So in case of course, moving fan, I know very well electricity and these things. Very simple viveka is there, discrimination, and I can do. But here, we have to, there are several steps involved in order to understand that, consciousness is very distinct from the body. So we have to do that. The first step is called Chit Jada Viveka. Chit means consciousness, Jada means this anatma or body, etc. And that discrimination, we cannot separate physically because they are very intimate. But even in case of moving fan also, we don't separate physically. But we understand two things cognitively. Nobody, separates in one hand electricity and second hand fan. That one cannot do. Otherwise, one can gain a liberation immediately if you take in hand. So cognitively we do. Same way here also we have to do a cognitive separation, discrimination, etc. So that is the first step. So I am entering into this. See, there are very distinct things, distinct factors are there to identify an inert thing. And from there we can understand the consciousness, which is very distinct from the inert, must have a opposite kind of factors. So what are the factors by which we can determine that a given object is inert? Here in case of us, it is body. So first thing is, any inert thing is an object of experience. And body is an object of experience. There is no doubt about it. I can talk about my body. That shows I am experiencing my body. It may be gross body or it may be a subtle body. I am able to talk about it. And second thing is, any inert thing is made up of 5 elements. That also is there, right? Inert thing is made up of 5 elements. Third thing is, it is always a variable. It undergoes a change. We have seen, of course, yesterday when we discussed about the three bodies, we have discussed these things. I have told you that bodies are divided on the basis of the nature of the body and, of course, the life of the body and from material of the body from which it is made, etc. All these things I have yesterday told you. The same thing we are taking here now. So, what is the nature of the physical body? It is all the time changing. We know very well. And it is temporary also. Available in a given state of experience. People may talk, that Swamiji, you say physical body is not available after death. But then consciousness is also not available. So we'll not go to that extent. But in our day-to-day experience, we find like this physical body is available in a waking state, like waking world. Waking world also is available in a waking state. Physical body also is available in a waking state. When you go to dream, definitely this body is of no use. You create another body. And deep sleep, of course, you don't have any kind of awareness of this body. In deep sleep, you never use this body at all. And therefore, physical body is as though available. In your awareness, it is only in this A state of a waking. Same way mind, etc. Subtle body also, senses everything. They are also available in a waking state and partially available in a dream state. In deep sleep state, no senses available to you, no mind, etc. Nothing available to you. Physical body also is not available to you. And therefore, basically, so this is, we call it as a temporary. Any inert thing is temporary. So 5 things or 4 things we can count. Inert thing is always an object of experience. Inert thing is always made up of elements. Inert thing is constantly undergoing vikara changes. Inert thing is temporary. This much we can definitely tell about these bodies, both the bodies. Now, thing is compared to the world, they are also objects of experience made up of elements and also constantly undergoing change, temporary, etc. This all we can say about the world also and about the bodies also. But the difference between the body and the world is, body is very intimate object of experience. Very intimate object of experience. And not only it is an intimate object of experience, it becomes an instrument also for you to transact with the world, which I talked yesterday also. That, like physical body is a house or an office-like thing where this jiva resides and transact with the world in terms of pleasure and pain he gains. And the subtle body also, like all the, sense organs, etc., also instruments which are used to undergo varieties of the experience from the world. And so, basically, both these bodies, even though they are intimate objects of experience, at the same time they work as instruments also for that conscious being to transact with the world. And it is exactly like my spectacles. And what happens is, spectacles also so intimate object of my experience that even I forget sometimes the presence of spectacles. It happens. But it is how can you say somebody it is an object of experience? Well, very simple. In morning when I get up and when I want to utilize, before utilizing I clean them because some vibhuti or something may be fallen on it. So I clean it. So that shows it's an object of seeing, object of experience. Otherwise, how will I clean it? And therefore, definitely, even though it is very intimate object of experience, and at the same time, it becomes an instrument also to see the world. And so, same way, all physical body, even the sense organs, organs of action, and even mind, etc., all these are very intimate objects of experience, and they are instruments also. So when I get up, same way like spectacles, when I get up, first thing I experience my own mind, right? Then I experience my own mind first, and through the mind, then I experience the world. When I get up, I experience my sense organs first, and then through the sense organs, works as an instrument, I experience the world. So, without experiencing my own mind, own sense organs, etc., my own physical body, I don't experience outside world. And so this is way, we can definitely, through this reasoning, we can say the physical body or a subtle body, well, of course, it is inert because it is an object of experience. And of course, compared to the world, one more status we can give to the body is it also works as an instrument. Now, next step is, even though, well, we have established that logically that inert or achetanam, well, they appear as a chetanam, everything. Like through mind I gain several kind of knowledge, through senses I gain so much kind of knowledge, seeing, hearing, everything takes place. So they all work as a sentient entities. My mind, my senses, even physical body is also sentient. If I put a like this, I can immediately feel. So anyway, so physical body, if it is inert, it cannot experience anything. Definitely. This is a definition of a chetanam and achetanam. We have to know. One who experiences is chetanam. One, well, which is not which cannot experience, but which is always available for experience is achetanam. One which experiences is chetanam. One which is experienced is achetanam. And therefore, well, the body itself works as the experiencer. Like right now, suppose the temperature is low, etc. Suppose because of air conditioner, I definitely feel cold. So a inert thing cannot experience. We have to establish it is inert. And then it cannot experience, but it definitely it is sentient. So even though you say these bodies are achetanam, but they appear as a sentient, conscious entities, then definitely we can easily, infer the consciousness must be borrowed, right? If achetanam thing, well, definitely is inert, works as a conscious entity, then definitely the consciousness must be borrowed from some factor, whatever the factor. Like I tell you, the moon itself has no brightness. It has no natural light of its own. But moon appears bright, then definitely the light must be borrowed from some source. Right? And same way, here also we can say, the body is inert, we have established, and therefore it cannot experience, and it cannot be sentient, but everything looks sentient. Mind is sentient, ears are sentient, eyes are sentient, everything works as though very sentient, as a sentient being. Therefore, the sentiency or the consciousness must be borrowed from some source. This is what we have to understand. And you can understand what must be the source. What must be the source? What must be the source? You can understand Chetanam, the source, if consciousness is borrowed by these bodies, the lender must be what? Consciousness, right? At that much we can understand. If I borrow money from somebody, then the person must be having a money. Otherwise, how can I borrow? So, basically, the consciousness, the lender must be the conscious entity or consciousness. But who is that consciousness? Well, there are two things. If you say the inert thing is an object of experience, and then this consciousness, which lends consciousness to the body, etc., must be what? If body is an object of experience, right? And it is borrowing consciousness. What is the next entity must be what? If it is an object of experience, definitely, and it is borrowing consciousness from something, that source must be what? Subject. Simple. Right? Object and subject. Very nice. So, my own experience is that I am conscious being. Definitely, the I must be the source of consciousness, or I am consciousness who lends consciousness to physical body, mind, senses, organ of action, etc. This is how we establish like this. And the consciousness must be what? Well, it must have opposite factors compared to inert things, because inert and consciousness, they are opposite things, like light and darkness. So if inert thing is the object of experience, the consciousness must be the experiencer, in form of experiencer. Then second thing is, if object of inert object is made up of 5 elements, while the consciousness is not made up of 5 elements. We have to tell the opposite things, because inert thing and conscious thing are opposite. Then third thing is, objects are temporary, come and go, like bodies, etc. They come and go. Then consciousness is what? It is always present in all the three states of experience. Bodies, different bodies come and go, but consciousness is always present in all the three states of experience. And fourth factor is any inert thing possesses attributes. That is how it becomes an object of knowledge. When you know any object, definitely you take it along with the attributes. It may have a shape, it may have a size, it may have some color, whatever. But it must be all inert objects possess attributes. Starting from space, everything. Space also has a one attribute. And then all other things, So, varieties of the attributes are there. And therefore, consciousness must be what? Must be free from the attributes. This is how we deduce. This is all reasoning. And, consciousness is free from attributes. Consciousness is subject. Consciousness is present in all the three states of experience. It is not temporary. It doesn't go and come back like that. And it is not made up of any elements. This much we can discern. So, I said first we have to distinct the consciousness from the body. So, this is the way we can distinct. The body which is inert, it has some kind of factors, and the consciousness is just opposite to that. It is in form of subject, etc., etc. So, we can say that way. So, from this we can deduce four or five rules regarding consciousness. What? I, the consciousness, I can say now, I, the consciousness, is not a part of body. Because if it is a part of body, body is inert, part of body also must be what? Inert. Therefore, I, the consciousness, is not part of the body. Second thing, I, the consciousness, is not the property of the body. If body is inert, what will be the property? Inertness, right? Therefore, I, the consciousness, is not even a property of the body. This is what scientists say, that consciousness is generated in the brain, etc. And that's how they consider as a property of the brain, etc. Shastras reveal very clearly consciousness which is distinct from this physical body, etc. Therefore, consciousness is not a property of the body. Physical body or a subtle body. Of course, scientists won't believe in subtle body at all. They will say the grey matter, only the brain. But anyway, then the third thing is consciousness is not even a product of the body. Product means generated from. Body is not a material from which consciousness is generated. It cannot be. Why? Because an inert thing can generate inert thing, right? And therefore, consciousness cannot be a product also of the body. So, not a part, not a property, not a product. There's a first thing. In order to understand a cognitive separation, to do a cognitive separation between the body and the consciousness that is I, this is the rule. Between Anatma and Atma, you can also say that way also. Second thing, if it is so, if consciousness is not a part, product and property of the body, then I am an independent entity. I, the consciousness, is an independent entity, and of course, I lend consciousness and existence to the various, parts of the body, gross body and subtle body. So I enliven them, I pervade them, because each of the gross body is conscious, right? Every cell. And therefore, I pervade the gross body, I pervade the mind, I, the consciousness, pervade the mind, I, the consciousness, pervade the senses, I, the consciousness, pervade all organs of action, prana, everything. And therefore, I, the consciousness, is independent of the body, but at the same time I pervade the body and I enliven or make sentient the bodies. This is the second point. Third thing is, consciousness, I, is not limited by the boundary of the body. Because if I am an independent entity, then definitely, you cannot tell that you have so-and-so dimension. Dimension is of the body, but body, I, the consciousness, is distinct from the body. Therefore, I am free from any dimension, definitely. So, basically, consciousness is not, I, the consciousness, is not limited by the body. And, so I am formless. I am formless. All forms are forms of all the forms are object of consciousness, object of experience, object of knowledge, but I am basically formless. This is what we deduce from this. Then fourth factor, I, the consciousness, continues to survive even after the fall of body, because I have no concern with the body. Then body has a birth, body has a death, body has all kinds of modification. Asti, jayate, you know all this. Vardhate, viparinimate, apakshiyate, vinashyati. All this body grows and body decays and etc. etc. Undergoes modification. Body has a birth, body has a death. All 6 modifications are there in the body. But since I am independent of the body, well, I don't have birth and death. So even after the fall of the body, well, I continue to survive. This is, we are all doing through reasoning, that this is what, this is my nature. And the fifth point is, well, after the fall of the body, well, surviving consciousness will not be available for transaction. Because these are, yesterday I told you, the bodies are given to a conscious being for a transaction. So if they are not there, consciousness cannot transact, definitely. And therefore, so it is not available for, consciousness is not available for transaction, because there is no medium. Bodies become, ultimately, they are the medium. Physical body, subtle body are medium. So through which I definitely transact. So, but basically, I become non-transactable. I, the consciousness, become non-transactable after the fall of body, but it doesn't mean I become non-existent. I become non-transactable after the fall of body, but it is not true that I am non-existent. I will be non-existent after the fall of the body, because I and the body are very distinct entities. I am consciousness, body is inert, and we have seen all those factors. So this is called Chit-Jad Viveka. This is a Viveka between Atma, the consciousness, and Anatma, the bodies. This is, so Sharira Dhyasa, actually, we have discussed these 3 bodies projection on the self, and so one has to become free from that Adhyasa. Like a snake is, superimposed upon the rope, then you have to understand the nature of the rope ultimately in order to be free from Adhyasa or superimposition of the snake. So same way, this is what has been told here in the verse number 16. So you can see in the second line it says, Vivicyat, may you separate. So separate here, not physical separation. May you do a intellectual separation. I mean, do you do a discrimination? You separate these two what? May you separate Shuddham Atmanam, which is Atma, which is ever pure. Why it has to be told? It is very true. It is very true. Like let us take, I have not compared all these 5 points which I told you. We can compare in the moving fan also. But now this point I will tell you. Fan may be having impurities like dust and other things, but electricity is ever pure. Comparatively, we can say that way. Same way here also, well, the bodies have a Ashuddhi. Physical body has a maximum. You know very well. Physical body has all kinds of impurities. Subtle body also has impurities in terms of negative emotions and various things, raga, dveshas, etc. And the causal body is impurity. Not it has impurity, because it is avidya, ajnanam. That's even in fact the main Ashuddhi, but because of which everything is ultimately, all this samsara is there. So avidya, that's how we want to remove it also. So all the 3 bodies have impurity. Or one body is in form of impurity, other 2 have impurity, let us say that way. And Atma is ever pure, because it is independent, right? It is independent, and therefore it cannot be affected by the impurities of the body. That's how it says, Shuddham Atmanam Vivicyat, and that's very beautifully told. May you separate, may you understand Atma to be distinct from the body. They could have told, may you understand the body is distinct from Atma, but that's not correct. That's not correct, right? May you understand bodies distinct from Atma. That's not correct. May you understand snake distinct from rope. It's not correct. Snake is non-separate from the rope. Right? Snake is non-separate from the rope. If you understand distinct from the rope, means as though it has an independent existence. No, that's not correct. And therefore, may you understand Atma distinct from the three bodies. Three bodies are non-separate from the Atma because the very existence of the bodies have been borrowed from the Atma. And consciousness, of course, is borrowed from the Atma. It is going to come, nothing to worry about. But so basically, Atma is Satchit. Atma is in the form of, Atma is of the nature of existence and consciousness, lends existence and consciousness to all the bodies. And therefore, definitely, what lends existence, well, definitely is independent. And what borrows existence is all the time non-separate from the lender. That's how it is, right? Pot and clay, you can understand now. The very existence of pot is because of the clay. And therefore, pot is non-separate from the clay, right? And therefore, same way here. If physical bodies are distinct, means, they have an independent existence, then in that case, well, we will not have to worry about. But basically, physical bodies are physical body and the other body, subtle body are superimposed upon the Atma. And therefore, we'll have to do this kind of that's how I said they are intimate, as though they have become one because of the superimposition. So, Atma is Nityam Shuddham, well, it is ever pure, and these bodies, etc., have a impurity. So, may you make a Atma, distinct, Vivichyat, V plus Vich Dhatu. From that, the word Viveka also has come. So, to discriminate, may you separate cognitively, etc. So, what kind of Atma it is? Vapus tushadi bihi koshaihi yuktam vapuhu. Vapuhu means a annamaya kosha, or a gross body. And so, Atma is as though endowed with these panchakoshas. Atma is as though endowed with these three shariras. And therefore, well, endowed means they has though become one with these five koshas or three shariras. And therefore, may you make separate from that. And they have a beautiful example. Tushadi bihi. Tusham means, that husk available in the paddies. So, definitely, which covers the rice grain. So, just as you pound the paddy and you remove this husk and you gain that rice, same way like this Atma is as though covered by this Panchakosha or the three shariras, basically. And so, well, so teacher as though pounds, the disciple, and separate these three shariras. This is a way of saying. This is an example. So, yukti avaghatataha, very beautifully said. Avaghatana means pounding. Yukti avaghatataha. Yukti means at the level of intellect, means through the cognitive. It's a cognitive pounding at the level of intellect, or through the discrimination. May you separate it. So, Antaram Atmanam, which is innermost self. Innermost self is I. What innermost self? I is the most near to me. And therefore, that I, well, which is as though endowed with this panchakoshas or three shariras, well, yukti avagatata, through the pounding of cognitive pounding, well, it should be separated. And then, well, that Atma is what? Nityam Shuddham, which is eternal and ever pure. Because of the association with the body, well, it has become a non-eternal. Body has a birth and death. I say, well, I have a birth and death, but basically I am distinct from the body. I am independent of the body, and I have nothing to do with the body. I am a lender. I am a Satyam. I am the lending consciousness and existence to the body. I am independent for the existence and consciousness. I am self-revealing. I am self-revealing, self-existent. While body, etc. are not revealing themselves. For their revelation, they depend upon me. That's how we can understand that. Now let's go to verse 17. Sada sarvagator pyatma na sarvatra vabhasate Buddha veva vabhasate svacheshu pratibimbavat. Now we have discussed those 5 points regarding consciousness. Well, consciousness is not part, product, and etc. In that, the very third point is there, consciousness is not limited by the boundaries of the body. Like the electricity is not limited by the boundaries of the fan. Electricity, of course, is there in the cables and everywhere. So electricity is not bound by the, by the boundaries of the fan. Same way, consciousness is not limited by the boundaries of the body. Now, that particular point has been explained in this verse further. Because if consciousness is not bound by the body, consciousness should be present not only in the body, it should be present everywhere, right? You say consciousness is not bound by the body, means consciousness is all pervading. Well, if it is all pervading, but I don't see consciousness anywhere. I see here, that's very true, but then I don't see consciousness anywhere else. And therefore, well, that kind of a doubt will be there. So it will be resolved through the example, etc. here. So let's go to first our own example of electricity. So electricity is there in the fan, of course, and it goes beyond also. Means it flows through the cable and other factors. So, but basically, electricity, well, from this, our own experience, we can say that electricity as though available in, it is in twofold way. Let's say that way. One is a recognizable form of electricity. Second is an unrecognizable form of electricity. So in cables, etc., it is unrecognizable, definitely. Because otherwise a cable, sometimes suppose a leak is there and I don't know and I get electric shock if I touch it. That's why I don't recognize electricity present in the cable. And but in fan, of course, it is recognizable. So like electricity has as though two forms, recognizable, unrecognizable. Same way consciousness also is like this. Consciousness also has like this, and consciousness in the body, of course, it is in recognizable form. How do I recognize consciousness in the body? Well, all the functions are possible. All physiological functions are possible due to consciousness. All psychological functions are possible due to consciousness. Even right now, I'm trying to understand. I'm seeing you. You are trying to understand my words. Everything because the mind is conscious. Definitely, senses are conscious. You are able to see me. That itself proves the consciousness is there. Basically, all the things, physiological functions, psychological functions, all intellectual functions are possible because of the consciousness. So, consciousness in the body is in recognizable form, but consciousness outside, non-recognizable. Right? So this is what has been discussed here. So let's divide consciousness into two right now for our understanding. One is a manifest consciousness or a recognizable consciousness. We call it as a chidabhasa or chit pratibimba. So as though consciousness is reflected in the buddhi, in the mind. And that is how through that, well, it has been recognized. And the second one, which is unmanifest consciousness, well, because the medium is not there, so that's the consciousness without reflection. And here it is with reflection. So one is in a recognizable form, outside it is not recognizable. And for that example they give is always this, of a moon, bright moon, like a full moon. So moon does not have its own light. It has no natural light. And of course, what we call moonlight, in Sanskrit they call chandrika. So moonlight. So moonlight basically is nothing but reflected sunlight, right? Moon is nothing but a reflected sunlight. And so sun basically reflects on the moon. That's a medium. And gets reflected. And so definitely one will see it as a moonlight. So as though sunlight pervades everything, sunlight is falling on the moon. And sunlight is falling in the space also, which is there, right? Everywhere it is. In the space, there is a moon. So it is falling on the moon, sunlight. Definitely it must be existing in the space also. It is not that sun has very clearly chosen that I should fall only on the moon. It is, his rays are scattered all over the space. But even though that all-pervading sunlight is definitely in two forms. On the moon, it is recognizable, and outside the moon in the space, it is not recognizable. Why? Because medium is not there. So reflecting medium is required. If reflecting medium is not there, you won't recognize its presence. So it will be in unrecognized form. And on the moon, which is a medium, well, it is a recognizable. Same way consciousness also, it is all pervading. But in the body, well, of course, he will tell what is the medium. But let's say that right now the body. So body is a reflecting medium, and well, that's how here it is recognized. Outside it is not recognized. So this is the first step in Shravanam. Understanding of consciousness, well, is the first stage of Vedanta. Understanding consciousness in this way, well, it is in a recognizable form, non-recognizable form, etc. So, and body, etc., are body, mind, senses, all are bhautikam. They are made up of elements, they are inert, they are object of experience, etc., etc. And Atma, well, the consciousness, is not bhautikam, it is not made up of elements, it is not an object of experience, it is always in the form of experiencer, etc. This is how we discern. And it is always present in all the three states of experience. Body, etc. are temporary, they come and go in one state of experience, and well, and they come in one state of experience, go in another state of experience. So this is called Chit Jada Viveka, right? Chit Jada Viveka, a distinction or discrimination between consciousness and the body, basically. This is the first stage. Second stage should be that consciousness is the real thing and bodies, etc., body, mind, sense complex is unreal. Unreal, mithya, we call it. And third step is, we are going to discuss all this in the coming verses. And third step is, of these two, body, etc. are mithya, unreal, and consciousness is real. What should I claim as myself? Well, definitely, what is real I should claim. What is false, what is unreal I should not claim, right? And therefore, well, I should claim means that I am consciousness. I should abide into this knowledge that I am consciousness. Bodies, etc. are mithya. Bodies, etc. are, well, depend upon me. They can't reveal themselves. They depend upon me for their existence. They depend upon me for the sentiency. They are basically objects of experiencing. They are also they work as instruments to transact with the world, etc. This is the way we have to understand it. So instead of claiming this mithya sharira, etc., as myself, I should definitely shift my focus on from the mithya anatma. Right now I consider this I am a body. Now after understanding everything, well, I should focus that I am satya atma. I am consciousness, which is reality, which is the real thing. Well, then what happens? The bodies will go away? No. That's the definition of mithya, which is really not there, but which cannot be negated also. That is mithya. That is how it is. Which is really not there. On analysis, you won't find it. But you cannot dismiss it as a zero. Well, that is how it is. Everything is like that. You cannot, you know very well that there is no blue sky. If I have understanding of a science, I can say there is no blue sky. But at the same time, I cannot dismiss it. I cannot dismiss it as that from the moment I understand that blue sky will go away from my perception. No, it will remain. Blue sky will appear as a blue all the time. But in my understanding, there is no blue sky. That's how it is. In my cognition, there is no blue sky. In my perception, blue sky continues. This is mithya. So it doesn't become non-existent. That's how non-existent means. Perceptually, it will be there. And sunrise also, you know very well. Sunrise also, it's like that. There is no sunrise, we know very well. But still daily, in not only that, there is no sunrise, that is one thing. And but daily morning you will see sunrise. Not only that, whole our daily activity we arrange as if there is a sunrise and sunset, right? All our daily chores, etc. So this is how people feel so much perplexed that what is really useful or what comes in the transaction, what we use in the transaction cannot be mithya. It must be real. Vedanta says what you use in transaction, what is useful is mithya. Atma is never not useful entity. Atma is not useless also and not useful also. Basically, ultimately, Atma is Atma. What I am saying is like pot. Simple example is pot. We say mithya because clay is satyam, etc. But pot alone is useful. Clay cannot be used. If I, whatever my understanding is, clay is Satyam, etc., but I have to drink water from the pot, clay cannot be used for drinking water. This is how it is. Everything is like that. So, this is the understanding of mithya is this. Well, so bodies, etc., I understood as a mithya now. Suppose in this class I understood, yeah, I am Satyam, I am consciousness which lends existence and consciousness, everything. And therefore bodies are mithya, etc. Well, I understood. It doesn't mean then body will drop or will just vanish. No, it will continue. That's how it is. It will be useful also, right? Useful also in using as instruments and well, etc. So this way, we have to understand the mithya. Anyway, and then, well, mithya is there, therefore, then after that, well, the life becomes very like a drama. Like a person, the person who identifies with a particular role, and then for him it is a mithya, of course, the person, the actor. For him, it's a, whatever role he adopts is a mithya role, but he enjoys it. Same way, if I definitely shift my attention or shift my focus from this mithya body to the self, then, well, considering till today, well, it was the body, etc., was the reality. Now I understand it, that I am the reality, I, the consciousness, is a reality, and the bodies, etc., are mithya. Then, well, whatever I do, and I use the body also in transaction, but at that all will be just a drama, because I am not feeling a sense of limitation. I am not taking myself as a subject to birth and death, etc., and therefore definitely no fear. I don't take attributes of the body also as my attributes. The attributes of the mind becomes my attribute. So even a iota of jealousy arises, or iota of a like-dislike arises, especially as a sadhaka, I am saying. Then we don't like. Some kind of a dislike arises for anybody, or some hatred, or a jealousy, or even a lust, or anything. We don't like it. It arises in the mind, that's correct. But because of the taking body as the self, well, and then we were having a suffering. Now, since I know myself as a distinct from the three bodies, definitely attributes of the bodies, etc., they are there, they will be there. They are inert. I have told you one of the factor of the inert thing is that any inert thing has attribute. Any inert thing, either may be in the world or in the body, any inert thing has attribute. Even Karana Shariram has attribute, right? We said yesterday, Anadi, beginningless, it is attribute. Anirvachya, some mithya, etc. So all these are attributes. Subtle body has attributes. Gross body has several attributes. So all attributes I superimpose upon myself, which is consciousness, which is limitless, which is formless, which is not within the purview of the boundary of the bodies. Well, and taking body as the self and attributes of the self, I was suffering a lot. All our emotional suffering is due to limitations of centered on the self, and which self endowed or identified with the body. Now that has gone. So now, basically, his rest of the life is like a drama. It's like a drama. Atma sada sarvagataha. Well, consciousness is not limited by boundaries of the body. So don't try to expand. But Swamiji, we never try to expand. In fact, we want to contract. So in terms of body. But definitely in terms of mind. One wants to. Because centered on the self, basically you feel limited. And that's not your nature. So what is the reality about me is the I, ego, with the body. Consciousness along with the body. That is my reality. And that ego fills limitation. And that is how the whole life, person definitely wants to expand the ego. So you take yourself as a mind, and then there is a limitation of knowledge. Well, you want to expand yourself in terms of knowledge. Person wants to expand oneself in terms of knowledge, in terms of powers, in terms of everything. And if you take yourself as a gross body and you feel certain limitation in terms of beauty or anything, I mean any kind of a thing, then you don't like it. That also you want to. So whole our life of becoming, as Puja Swami used to tell it as a samsara, is this. Life of becoming is this ego wants to become bigger and bigger. But he doesn't know that you will never be satisfied with whatever amount of bigness you get in terms of ego, it still is going to be limited, right? And therefore, so basically Atma sada sarvagata, sada, always, sarvagata, sarvavyapi, all pervasive. Well, may you understand that you are all pervasive. Well, you are basically available in the body as recognizable form, but you are all pervasive. Everything exists in you. Everything borrows consciousness or existence from you. So you understand that way, and well, shift your attention from I, the ego, ahankara, or to the I, which is Brahman or limitless. So this is how it has been told. So sarvatra na avabhasate atma, well, sada sarvagatopi atma. Atma, even though all pervasive, sarvatra na avabhasate, it is not available in recognizable form everywhere. Sarvatra, it's not available, everywhere available. So you can't experience consciousness here. So people tell me, Swamiji, everything is consciousness, sarvam khalu idam brahma. So where is this consciousness? This is an inert thing. Like that people say. So consciousness is not available for experience in a outside world. Of course, in a body it is available, well, in a recognizable form, because everything is sentient. So where is it available then? How we will know? We all are in the camp because to know the consciousness or Atma. So buddho eva, buddho eva. So well, the subtle body is a reflecting medium where consciousness is available and for recognition. That's how they say. Yoveda nihitam guhayam parame vyom. In Taittiriya Upanishad also said, well, this satyam jnanam anantam brahma. This Brahman is available in this guha. Guha means in this buddhi. And how it is available, Swamiji? It is in the form of I. It is in the form of subject. Consciousness is available in the form of I, the subject. Other than I, everything is here object of experience. I have already told you. So when we were discussing inert and conscious entity, I have told you everything is object of experience, and well, it has borrowed consciousness from what? Other than the object. And what it will be? It will be subject. And therefore, so buddho eva, the subtle body, well, of course, is a first reflecting medium, basically buddhi, etc. Their consciousness is available for recognition in a form of I. So you recognize I as this consciousness, you as a consciousness. Don't identify it with the bodies, etc. This is how it is. Swacheshu pratibimbavat. So just as face is reflected on that shining surface, when I look at my face in book, etc., well, I won't be able to see that, because it doesn't have any shining surface. So, but if it is a mirror, etc., it has a shining surface. Same way, well, this buddhi also is like this medium. Vidyaranya calls it as a very finer material, because ultimately the mind is made up of a sattva aspect of all the subtle elements, and therefore it is very fine material. It is like a shining surface where the consciousness is reflected, and therefore you are able to see yourself. Just as you are able to see your face in a mirror because of a shining surface, you are able to see yourself as a consciousness in the buddhi. It is available there in the form of I. Every moment it is in the form of I, it is available. Pratibodha viditam matam, etc., etc. In Kenopanishad very beautifully said, well, if you want to recognize Atma, recognize in your knowledge, the piece of knowledge everywhere, it is available in the form of knowledge. Like, clip knowledge and this knowledge and that knowledge. Ultimately, all these are thoughts plus consciousness. So you are available in the buddhi as I, the consciousness. And so proximate. I is the most proximate, and that I is Brahman, the limitless. That is the goal of life, to know this and have a clarity that I is nothing but, which is distinct from three bodies, and it is in the form of eternal, pure consciousness. This is how it has been told. So this is a part of Shravana. We'll discuss further. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. We'll have Aarti now.